Steps here of state capitol in Helena, Montana, and our organization, about 65,000 supporters statewide for multiple use, active forest management. We're trying to bring groups together to try to tell the federal government that we need more local control on our federally managed public lands. The roadless rule is a very key component to this. In 2001, Clinton imposed the roadless rule on us. It was later struck down by Judge Bremer in Wyoming, and then through a lawsuit that was filed through California, the judge out there said to reinstate the Clinton roadless rule. There's been counties in the state of this Montana here that have put forward petitions and maps and resource plans to the governor of Montana to try to get those roadless rule released and put back into active management. And I'm here today to encourage people out in Montana to get involved with your local governments and find out where your candidates stand on this roadless rule, because if this goes into effect, it could virtually lock up 7 million acres in the state of Montana and stop all active management. Cattle grazing is at stake, logging, mineral extraction, recreation. We all have a stake in this, and I really ask everybody to get involved with this issue. Today we have a candidate for Attorney General with us today, and his name is Tim Fox, and I'd like to introduce Tim. I appreciate you running for Attorney General. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and I appreciate you all being here. My name is Tim Fox, and I am a Republican candidate for Attorney General. I've asked the media and my Montana friends to be here today to draw attention to a congressional subcommittee hearing being held today in Washington, D.C. on a bill sponsored by Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney of New York City and Christopher Shays of Bridgeport, Connecticut, that would designate as wilderness and lock up millions of acres of public lands in the Northern Rockies, including 7 million acres of public lands in the state of Montana. And I'm asking folks to join the thousands of Montanans, concerned Montanans, in opposition to that legislation. In addition, I've called this press conference to state my opposition to Attorney General Mike McGrath's decision to side with states like Maine and its 17,000 acres at stake, in contrast to Montana's 7 million acres, and California and its Attorney General Jerry Brown, who'd be lucky to get elected dog catcher in Montana, against our neighboring states of Wyoming and Idaho, who are seeking to require the U.S. Forest Service to take into account local input and local impacts concerning management of our national forests here in Montana and in neighboring states. The Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act would designate nearly 7 million acres of additional public land in Montana as wilderness. This additional acreage would triple Montana's current designation of wilderness acres and would result in more than 11% of our state's total acreage being tied up in wilderness. I join Congressman Denny Rehberg in his position that this legislation is a top-down approach that doesn't properly take into account the impacts of local economy, nor does it adequately protect access for hunting, fishing, and other forms of recreation. Much attention this week is being focused on Washington, D.C.'s most recent attempt to stop local control of Montana's public lands through the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act. While the threat from the two East Coast politicians who introduced this bill to our lands is real and serious, Montanans with an interest in our public lands face a real threat right here in Helena by virtue of Attorney General McGrath's decisions to side with out-of-state interests in federal lawsuits filed in other states. Instead of working with our neighbors in Idaho and Wyoming to fight President Clinton's roadless rule, that has subverted our state's right to help decide how our land is managed, Attorney General McGrath has chosen to side with extreme environmentalists in California and New Mexico to defend Bill Clinton's last-minute edict prohibiting individual states and communities from exercising meaningful local control in public land management. Attorney General McGrath has filed a friend of the court brief against our neighbors in Wyoming and Idaho who are trying to bring some common sense management to national forest lands that includes local input. His position has continually been toward a blanket approach to national forest management that allows Washington, D.C. politicians and environmental extremists to dictate how our public lands will be managed. I believe that Montanans deserve an Attorney General who will stand up for their right to help decide how their public lands are managed, not for the positions of extreme East Coast environmentalists and Washington, D.C. politicians. As Montana's next Attorney General, I pledge to do all I can to reverse the Clinton roadless rule and its devastating impacts on Montana's economy, recreation, and its ability to keep our forests healthy. In addition, if litigation is still pending in which Attorney General McGrath has filed friend of the court briefs supporting the Clinton roadless rule, I will withdraw those court appearances if I am elected Attorney General. Montanans have a right to know where all of the candidates for Montana Attorney General stand on this important issue. I am calling today, in fact I am challenging today, all of the announced Attorney General candidates to answer this question. Whose side are you going to take? Bill and Hillary Clinton and radical environmentalists, or the people of Montana who deserve to have a say in their public land management? Again, I want to thank you all for being here today on this beautiful day in Montana, and I wish we were all perhaps elsewhere in our public lands recreating, and hopefully with the efforts of some of the folks that you see here today in front and behind me, and many others in Montana who are concerned about these issues, we will have those opportunities today and tomorrow for ourselves and for our children and our children's children. So again, thank you for being here. I very much appreciate it.